Hello friends and welcome back to this channel. So in this video I want to share a live recording of one of my Instagram live sessions that I'm doing every Thursday. So I especially enjoyed this live session with Hany from Nobias Studio because we talked about Web3, the Metaverse, NFTs, and Hany shared a lot of great insights and interesting thoughts about the future of UX and what NFTs and Web3 really means for us as designers. So I would say let's get started with this interview, enjoy it and let me know what you think. I love the colors.
Yeah, just set it up actually.
Love it. Love it. It's good. Like lighting is important. Having like a good lighting is super important. So Hany, thank you so much for joining. It's really nice to have you here again.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, we always did one stream, I think a year ago or something like that. Maybe a few of the people in the community can remember. Absolutely. It was a good one. We talked about beyond the screen topic, so very interesting. You can still find it in my channel if you want to rewatch it. But today is all about Web3 and NFTs, a topic you are very passionate about. You're sharing a lot of really great content about that topic, starting a lot of discussions, conversations on LinkedIn and on Twitter. So already to start with, everyone who's not following Hany on like Twitter or LinkedIn yet, make sure to do it. I can highly recommend it. If you want to get some good content and some interesting conversations, you won't get disappointed, I would say. Okay, Hany.
Thank you.
Feel free to introduce yourself, tell the community a bit what you're doing, what you're up to, and where they can find you.
Cool. So I'll maybe start it the other way around. Yeah. So my name is Hany. You can find me somewhere in Patricia's neighborhood. We're actually neighbors, funny enough.
Yes.
I'm based in Berlin. So I have a background in UX and product. For the past 10 years, I've been in Berlin, working mostly in the startup scene. I had my own startup, So Much More. I don't know. 7, 8, 9 years ago now. We're getting old. That was later acquired by Urban Sports Club. And for the past 3 and plus something years, I started my own design business called Nobias, no bullshit, for a whole bunch of reasons. I don't want to talk about those now. And the focus there was mostly on a little bit of design thinking and UX strategy. So how to figure out the right thing to build and then how to build it in the right way and make sure that you're solving the right problem for the right people. And I think around early summer this year, I took a long vacation and I realized that I want to niche down on Web3. It's a topic that I'm quite passionate about. And I think I mentioned that a lot. I really think that UX is quite terrible in the Web3 world. And I just find it quite exciting to be working on it. And I think that there's a lot that could be done there. So yeah, that's me. You know, I guess if you tap my name, you can know where to find me. I don't want to market myself, but I'm really excited about this conversation. Patricia, thank you again for having me.
Awesome. I'm also excited. Thanks for being here, taking the time.
Cool, my pleasure.
Nice. And also very interesting about what you said about like realizing to niching down, because I think this is, like a very interesting topic where I feel like it's not really like a lot of discussion happening, right? Like many people or many designers feel as like T-shaped designers and are a little bit too scared to really go in one direction and say like, this is the area I'm passionate about. There is like money, there's need. I like working in that area and really niching down. People are sometimes a little bit scared of that. I mean, I also did that and I was a little bit scared to not get other clients or not get enough clients, but it's definitely a good direction. So how did you start? When you realized, okay, Web3 is my thing, how did you get started? Really like to learn about the space, kind of, right?
With the decision to work in it, or like to get in the space, in the Web3 space in general?
I would say to work with clients in Web3. I think that's
right. So I think my first my first project in this space was in 2018. I wanted to start an OBS, but that was around half a year before my wedding. So I thought, maybe it's a smarter decision not to jump into freelancing and self-employment right before a wedding with all the expenses coming up. So I took on a sort of an interim head of UX position at a crypto exchange here in Berlin. And I basically, within 6 months, that was the duration that I wanted to do. We set up the design team, set up the product team, started talking about, what the brand should be like, what the product should be like, how it should act. It was a platform that was supposed to make it easy for more people to buy Bitcoin at the time. So the focus was mainly on Bitcoin. And this is a space that I was quite excited about. I mean, I think I've bought my first Bitcoin back in 2016 or late 2016 or so.
I hope you bought a lot.
Yeah, I mean, so this was actually a very good like a very good help for me to make my decision to niche down. Is that I also had that concern of, do I really want to niche down? Which, I mean, obviously I need to niche down, but like, which topic should I niche down for? I had a whole bunch of topics that I'm really passionate about, especially our generation. We always want to do something that matters or something impactful, which is very nice, but very dreamy, from a business perspective. So I worked a lot in sustainability and in food technology and in health and in mobility and also in blockchain. And I had a very busy year last year until summer, and then I decided to take a long vacation in the summer. And right before I went on vacation, I had a call with my business coach, and I was talking to him exactly about this. I told him, how can I decide what topic to niche down on if I'm passionate about different things? And he told me something that, I think it's one of those, you hear a lot of advice as you go, and you know that quite well, I would say as well. And some of them, like a very small portion of them, really sticks in your head and makes a lot of sense to you. And what the guy told me, and this is Michael Janda, I guess everybody knows him here, on Instagram, one of the nicest guys out there and the most knowledgeable guys in our space, I would say. What he told me was, when you're building a business, your passion becomes the business, not what you're working on. Your passion becomes building and growing your business. And like, I took that with me, and a couple of dozens of bottles of wine later in southern France, I think it's shown on me, like, you love this space. From a business perspective, it makes a lot of sense for me to jump into it. I see a need for it. This is something I see myself working in for a while. It's early on. And my final, what I was mentioning earlier is like, what finally pushed me to do it and to make the move was like, I was like, what is the biggest risk? The fact that I'm marketing myself in this space and jumping in it. To be very honest, like, the risk I have been taking since 2016, like, just by buying into the space quite a lot. So I realized, it's not going to be a bigger risk than that. So just might as well jump into it full time. And that's what I've been doing. And I'm, super happy that I actually took that decision. And from a business perspective, I think it's one of the best decisions I made, not necessarily doing Web3, but niching down. I think it really helps you focus much, much more than I otherwise could. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
How about you? Like, what drove your decision, or like, how did you come to that decision?
So for me, a little bit different, but also kind of similar. So I did a lot of AR projects in the last year. So since I did the residency, I was like, I'm passionate about the future. Anything that happens there, like all the strategic work, is like those kind of things are the things that I enjoy the most. When I'm working in a project and we think a little bit beyond the screen, build prototypes and do a lot of testing and thinking more into the futuristic direction, I would say. So I niched down on AR, VR, I would say. So this was like the topic I was working on. I was working with different clients on that area. It was still a niche, right? It still is a niche. It was a niche, because they are not like, like the neighborhood company who says like, oh, we are doing an AR project that is interesting. We can afford you, right? So this was, for me, definitely a good decision back then, but also like a very scary one, because I was like, let's see how this goes.
Makes sense.
And then sooner or later, if you're working in like the, in this world, I would say, especially virtual reality, you come across the metaverse. So I stumbled upon this, this term, I think like 2 years ago or something, where I read the first articles around, and I was like, okay, that's interesting, what is that? Crazy. Like, it sounds like,
and it sounded very meta, like we say in Berlin. Like, it already sounded very meta. Yeah, absolutely.
100%. So I was like, interesting, what's that? And then just like, I would say by accident, and because of my AR experience, I got involved in some metaverse projects this year. Like, because of the pandemic, many companies realized we can't do any on-site events. We need to do it virtual. And virtual in Zoom sucks a lot. So we need to create any virtual spaces that are fun and nice and enjoyable.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge, right? So you need designers and UX people to help you to build flows that really make sense, to place content where it really makes sense, and we need to help users to really understand the whole process. Like, the development is like a whole challenge, but also the design and the whole UX part.
Yeah.
So I was fascinated by it, sometimes like crazy overwhelmed as well, with some topics, because there are not, in Web 2, or when you design something for the web right now, you just Google, right? Like, what does Netflix do? What does Spotify do? Let's read an article about it.
Absolutely.
But I feel like for Web3, I don't know how it is for you, but you need to try out a lot of things. You need to do a lot of testing and really rethink current patterns. We can't rely on any design libraries here and there, because like we haven't created these libraries yet, which is exciting for me for sure. So
very true.
This is how I got into the space, and now I'm working with an NFT startup. I mean, you know them. You know them quite well, yeah. For like almost half a year now, which has also been
some really exciting stuff right now.
It's crazy what they're doing. So when they started, they were a little bit smaller still, but I got really excited when like the founder reached out. Awesome what they're planning. I think they have like so much potential. Crazy visionary, and also from the UX perspective, a really interesting challenge. And it's awesome. So I totally love it. So now I'm like really into the space, and I'm not like a 100% tech person, as you know. I'm more like I'm a designer. So I really got thrown into that space and learned a lot. So this was helpful for me, but still like education's happening on the side for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's my journey a little bit into the space.
Really cool.
Yes, it has been a journey, right? I'm wondering like, maybe there are some people in the community who don't know what Web3 actually means. And I mean, that totally makes sense. Maybe we should clarify that and explain a little bit what this is. Also, NFTs. I don't know if everyone who's listening is aware of what this really is. And because if you don't fully understand it, then it's really difficult to see opportunities also for you as a designer, and to think like, is this something I want to niche down, or maybe even not? And not is also, I think, like a totally okay answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, in my life, just because I'm a guest with you, I don't think I can see the question.
We didn't get any questions so far. Hany, are you still there? Oh, it's not my Wi-Fi, to be honest. Oh, except I think he got kicked out. Awesome. Hello to all the people who are joining. Again, if you have questions, can you still hear us? Let us know in the chat. Oh, I think he left. Okay. Let's see. There he is. So if you have questions, feel free to just put them in the little question thing below. Any kind of question, but please not in the chat, because it's so difficult for us to. Oh, hi again.
Hey.
So please not in the chat, because it's very difficult for us to find it. Rather in the question thing here below, because then we can organize it and sort it out and not get lost somewhere in the comments. But there's one comment there's one thing in the one question in the comment that I want to read out. That's how is Web3 different from Web2? And this really refers to the question I asked. Hany, how would you describe the main difference of Web2 and Web3?
If you think of it, I think one of the problems in this space is that whenever you ask that question, you get a very technical answer with very big words and whatever. And what I like to do is, I like to break things down in a simple way, as a designer should, in my opinion. To me, the main difference is, people try to make it look crazy, advanced, and whatever. It's pretty simple. The main difference is that the underlying technology is different, right? But the main difference is that right now, if you use a service like Facebook, which is a standard Web2, company or technology, you are using a service that has centralized servers, that has centralized data storage and data transactions, meaning that they own those servers. They have them in different locations, sure, but all your information is stored in one place. If Facebook goes down, we had that, I think, a few months ago, right? When, Facebook, today Meta, went down. So Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, what else did they have? I forgot what else they have. Everything went down together. Yeah. At the same time, this means that this company owns all your data, and that's been a while. That's been a problem for a long time. The main difference is that you are building something on blockchain technology. I don't know how deep we need to get into blockchain technology here, but this means that not one company owns your servers, not one company owns your data. All your data is stored on bunch of thousands, perhaps millions of servers all over the world, and this service could be Patricia's computer, it could be my computer, it could be your computer that you're connecting to the network. And what that means is that not one entity holds the data, but a whole network holds the data. If I am a server and I get hacked, your data is not at risk because Patricia has a copy of it. If same thing, if you get hacked, somebody else has a copy. And then if any change needs to be happening to the data, if you want to add more information, if you want to change, if you want to say, hey, I have Bitcoin, I want to send Bitcoin to Patricia, what happens is that the network basically checks that you can do that. There are a set of rules. You define the rules as a developer, as a designer. It checks that you can do that, and then this information is updated all across the network. So, and of course it's encrypted, so you don't worry about it being hacked and read. Nobody can read it. You need your keys to read it. Now we're getting technical, but obviously what happens is that you're building it on a different data structure, on a different data storage system, and everything from there goes on. So today we talk about NFTs, you talk about crypto. All of these are applications, are technologies that run on top of blockchain technology. The main difference is blockchain technology, and I'll probably guess we're going to get to that later. I'm pretty sure I have a point I wanted to mention, but we'll get to that later. I don't know if you would have anything to add. Like, to me, it's a rabbit hole that we fall down and you start talking, but when you think of it, it's just that. What's up with Web4 though? Look at this hipster asking about Web4. Okay, before it's cool. Awesome. Andres. Awesome.
Yeah, what's Web4? I mean, that's the next big question, right? Like,
yes.
Totally makes sense.
No,
I think yeah.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just said your explanation really makes a lot of sense. And it's actually pretty simple, right? It's not that difficult. It's not like crazy fancy stuff, but just around the topic of decentralization. And I think this is so interesting, right? Because like if you close your account on Instagram, you don't have anything. You don't have anything. You don't have like the videos. Of course you can download, but you don't have anything. They have everything. They have your community, they have your followers, they have your data, they have your statistics, all the content you produce. You don't own anything. They have it, but they don't pay you for it, right? So
exactly.
They can use with it whatever they want. So pretty interesting, and that's totally different in Web3. You own your content, and you remove like the middleman, which would be Instagram, which would be Facebook, which would be Google, which would be maybe even Amazon, right? Because they are getting the big bucks right now.
Absolutely.
They're making so much money, but the content creators not. Same with Spotify. They're not earning anything. Spotify gets the money, or the labels actually. But that's, I think, like the interesting part also for us as creative interesting. If we're providing any kind of service that we can share and get paid from our community. We don't need that middleman who takes care that everything is right, or the notary, or like someone who makes sure that both parties are aligned, because it's on the blockchain, like you said. It's like on all the computers, so it's safe. Even one get hacked, it's still on other places. So
exactly,
super interesting.
So
yeah,
absolutely true.
A lot of opportunities for sure. Cool. Interesting. You can, let me see. You can receive questions.
I'm worried about scrolling because the last time I scrolled, the live shut down. So I'm gonna count on you.
Oh, well, I just tried to open the questions, but I think I can't. Instagram always comes up with new awesome features. I don't know. I haven't been on live for a long time, so they're like new things now. It's interesting. So I need to read out the question because I can't sadly show them because badges are on, whatever this means. So one question I think is pretty interesting. Is it possible to be an UX designer without knowing all the crypto processes? There are so many options like NFTs, staking, trading, venting, etc. So how important do you think for day-to-day UX designers is really know how like cryptos, not only cryptocurrencies, but like the Web3 mechanics work?
I think, again, as a designer, you don't need to be as knowledgeable about the tech as, a Solidity developer, obviously, but it's important that you understand what you're working with, of course. Like you can only go so far if you don't understand the technology. And this is something I notice in our space right now, is that one of the biggest issues why you don't have enough designers is because the technology is a little, I don't want to call it inaccessible, but it's not exactly welcoming and warm and friendly, like for you to just jump in and learn. Like you need to put in the effort, and when you put in the effort, you see it. But I definitely think you need to have a certain level of understanding because it's different. Very simple. Like as designers, whenever we're creating a service, most of the times you have to create a user account and the username and the password. It's like at the most basic of levels. In Web3, in 99% of the cases, you don't have a username and a password. You have your wallet and you just sign in with your wallet and that's it. And your wallet is something external anyway. So you're connecting a wallet that works across services, right? So I definitely think it is important to understand the technology. How deep you want to go depends on how deep you want to go, to be very honest. I hate to be saying this right now. I really hate to be saying this right now, but I am in the process of working on something and I want to run it by you, obviously, Patricia, is, a breakdown of blockchain technology for designers, like what you need to know, how to understand it as a designer to know how to deal with it. And then, so I'm thinking I'm doing this as a video course. I've been supposed to do this for over a year now, and
Awesome.
Postponing, but I think I'm going to do a live, like a first run, which would be a live webinar. And then, we'll just tweak it from there and take it to a web course. But I think it's really important and it's missing information. You can learn, you can find the information just like Patricia did, just like I did, but it is not as accessible. It's not as out there yet because it's young, because it's very fresh. And so far it's been mostly like a technology by engineers for engineers somehow. So we want to change that. We absolutely want to change that.
Love that. Sounds awesome. I mean, let you know when you're publishing that or even the webinar. I'm happy to promote that because I think like this is really interesting for everyone who's here. Just understand like the basics, and like you said, Hany, it's really challenging to get there. There are a lot of blogs there, and also like a lot of things that might not be 100% true. Some things are awesome, but it's difficult to find them. And then to really try things out, there are a lot of barriers. Even like creating a wallet is like for people who are used to great UX, a huge barrier, right? Because we are so. I think we are so happy to live in a world where UX is like a constant friend of ours.
It's a standard.
It's a standard, 100%. And in the Web3 space, not so much right now. We can also talk about why.
Yeah.
And not so much a little bit later. I think this is also interesting discussion. But yeah, sounds good. I mean, a basic understanding or a basic, like some basic information about it would definitely be helpful,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
I
But
actually
it's changing. It's maturing fast. Like I wouldn't say it's maturing,
yeah.
but it's changing. Like especially this year with NFTs, and probably we're gonna talk a lot about NFTs tonight. But I feel like NFTs are making this whole space more tangible.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's changing. It's definitely changing. Yeah.
So what is your take on NFTs? There is a lot, like many discussions going on online. Also, when I share something about NFTs, there's like some people who are really against it and really say it's like the worst thing ever happening. And there are a lot of people who really see the opportunities there. So where are you in that range?
Um, I don't want to be a bad influence, to be very honest. I am definitely a fan. I definitely love that the whole promise that it stands for. I think I'm gonna take it one step back, and I get the similar question to you, and I get similar feedback to what you're getting. And in many cases, I get a lot of shit like, "What the fuck is this? This is a scam. This is a Ponzi scheme." Blah blah blah. I get that. On the internet, people are very polarized. If you go on Twitter, some are saying it's a scam. Others tell them you're fucking idiots, which I think is very ineffective. It doesn't really help with the communication at all. Um, I see, like, to me, it's you have a lot of projects, as you're saying right now, and it's sort of like looking at a whole lot of startups almost and looking at, okay, yeah, not all of them are going to make it. And maybe nothing that we see today is going to make it. Maybe even when it comes to cryptocurrencies, most of the ones that we see probably we won't be seeing in 5 years or 10 years. It's just the reality of business and the reality of the world. But to me, what it's all about is the bigger picture of blockchain technology, is the bigger picture of the change that it could bring on a social level, on a political level, on a global level. Like you're talking decentralization, you're talking about helping people who had never had access to banks finally get access to financial services. We're talking about people in the third world. We're talking about people in Europe, even in America, like all over the world. You have lots of trust issues. I come from a country which built its whole economy in the past half century on a banking system, which was modeled after the Swiss banking system. And this banking system collapsed 2 years ago. And now people's money is in the bank and they have no access to it. And to me, this is a fundamental issue that obviously blockchain solves through cryptocurrency. So I'm totally for the technology, but I'm not blind to say just go and buy everything right now because you're going to be billionaires. I would say do as much research as you can. Don't just take people's advice. Do your own research, ask, try around, and just like with any sort of investment, invest whatever you feel is something you can risk losing, let's say, and don't go crazy. I have friends who are in finance who tell you I won't invest in this at all. I have friends who are in finance who tell you I put all my money in crypto or in NFTs or so. So I'm a big fan of it. To me, it makes total sense. It's you owning your intellectual property. It's you owning your data. It's you being able to monetize this. And I just take it very simply to the example of gaming. Obviously the potential is all over. A lot can be done in so many different spaces, but to me, gaming is one of the most obvious use cases that people would just grasp right away. Is say you play FIFA, say you play Fortnite. I think Fortnite is a great example because I think we all hear about somebody whose kids love Fortnite, so they take their credit card and they spend 20, 30 euros, 50 euros a day buying skins and buying whatever stuff. And this is money that you're spending, and this is even time. I mean, we all grew up with video games, spent a lot of time playing video games. And what happens is you finish the game, either the new version comes out a year later, so you have to buy a new one, or you spend a lot of time, you get bored, and that's it. And but what happened to all the effort, all the time, to all the money that you invested in this? Why can't you take advantage of that value? And so if you have something like NFTs, if you have something like blockchain technology, you can develop a Fortnite character. You can spend some money if you want to on it. You can make it good. You can sell it to someone. You can rent it out to somebody. You can move it from one game to another. You can, I don't know, your favorite sneakers that you in real life yesterday from Nike, why can't in GTA? wear them, for example. So this whole openness, this whole being able to move my data around, having control and having, financial ownership and ownership in general of my data, of my intellectual property. It's a no-brainer, especially today. We all spend our time online, we're buying assets online, so why not? I'm a big fan, but everybody has to be cautious. Everybody has to take responsibility and do your research before you make any sort of move. That's my take.
Totally. No. That makes a lot of sense, and I think it's awesome that you also really stress that NFTs are not about like any JPEGs online with animals on it, but that the vision of it, or that the idea behind it is something else.
Right.
So I think like everyone who still thinks of an NFT as a JPEG didn't really get the whole approach of it. So do some research and try really to understand what this is all about, because especially what you just shared, like with the opportunities in gaming, same opportunities in design, right? So like you can transfer that to all kind of industries. So think about all the things that you are repetitively doing in different tools that you could do just once, and then reuse it for every usage you can think about. Just think about. And we still have some tools that might work like that, but not 100%. So I think there's still a lot of room for improvement. And the second thing you also mentioned about the data, and this is pretty interesting. So right now, companies are using our data for free, right? They don't pay anything for it.
Yeah.
Well, that could change. So you could even make money just by kind of selling your data to companies, because they still need it, but you own it, so they can't use it.
Yeah.
So very interesting approach, which really changed also the perspective on design, and I think moves the whole industry into like a little bit more like ethical direction, rethink structures, which is awesome. Transparency, right? Like all the things we talked about in the last years with like what's going on with all the with all the tech companies and the data. No one really was like thinking about any solutions. So I think like that could be one, and that really provides value.
Very much so.
That's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely so.
Yeah.
Absolutely so. Yeah.
But
so
also,
don't just think about NFTs as JPEGs of monkeys. That's one project that worked for a whole bunch of reasons. But I know we talked about this before, you and I, but it's just ridiculous. You see all these projects with different animals. Like that's not the secret. It's not about having the right animal with the right art. It's a nice element to it, but it's really about what you get out of it. It's stop buying stuff that looks like other projects out there just because other projects made it, right? That goes against the whole concept, to be honest. So again, do your research. Don't just buy a hype. Buy something with value and with utility.
Yeah, I think that's super important, right? Even if also like both of us are really believe in NFTs, it doesn't mean that we are like throwing on our money on any kind of NFTs on OpenSea or how all the marketplaces really look like. You really need to do the research, and research is thinking about like the roadmap of those NFTs, because you can't really see even like those JPEG NFTs, right, with images. It's not just like one piece. They belong to a group, to a collection of of a community.
Yeah.
And I think this is also something super, super, super fascinating for me. Absolutely. As a community builder on Instagram. Or like, I'm passionate about community, and then see how communities form around like NFT collections.
Right.
Maybe a few of you have like joined a few of the Discord channel from the NFT drops of like the big ones. It's crazy. Sometimes there are 500,000 people in it.
Yeah.
And they're trying everything to get a whitelist and to get the chance to mint, so to kind of buy one of the NFTs and own it. Right? Because some have like crazy value increase, some don't. You never know before, but you can.
That's very true. That is very true.
Yes, so definitely. Also, no, I think you need to say that nowadays. No financial advice here.
Yeah.
Also,
NFA,
right? Like
and do your own research. Yeah, absolutely.
Do your own research.
Absolutely. I stopped giving financial advice. I'm in no position to give financial advice, but At this point, when friends ask me what to buy, I mention some things, but I never tell them buy this or buy that because, I have cases, banker friends who would ask me, should I buy Bitcoin 4 years ago? And I'd say yes. And then it crashes. Like, oh, you ruined my life. Like, dude, I mean, you're a banker. You should know how things work. It's not my problem, I'm also invested and also dip, but we're like, people they hear a lot and they expect like, okay, it's all about quick wins. So I can put some money today. In 2 weeks, I'm going to be much richer. Yeah, it's not like that. We're playing a very long game here. But I think
Interesting.
long term, you will see the returns on your investment if you're investing into the right project, of course. But don't just buy in blindly. No, do your own research. Very important.
Yeah. Yeah. But everyone tells you something different, right? I think
Sure.
that's very interesting because everyone also has their own perception and their own stakes in the
For sure.
How do you say in the industry, right? So they're also trying to push their own topics. But another thing that I think is pretty interesting, also thinking about creatives, that also Behance, the platform Behance, created the possibility to sell, or I don't know if it's really like selling, but to create your NFTs or something like that, or to upload them there.
Okay.
Did you see that? Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah, I will share that later in my stories. I saw that, I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago, which I found is like very interesting. But I know that Scott Belsky is very, very into NFTs. I heard a few interviews from him. It's the founder of Behance, for everyone who doesn't know him. So he's really pushing that. He's invested in many projects, also in cyber actually. So he also invested in non-cyber. Yeah,
really cool.
Yeah, I really love him. He's quite a visionary. So
I need to check that out. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, you need to. You need to. It's very interesting. Just as a little side note, but I will have a quick look at the questions.
Yeah.
Let's see. It like King J Ames. It feels NFT created a binary. You either believe in it or you don't.
Yeah.
Or how do you reconcile?
Yeah. First of all, kudos on your username, King James. We all appreciate King James over here. That's my favorite basketball player. I totally agree, man. Like honestly, the whole internet's polarized right now. The whole world is polarized. You have people talking about, I'm with the vaccine, I'm against the vaccine, I'm with this policy, I'm against that policy. So I think our world has, it's pretty fucked to a point that we are pretty polarized about everything. But like I mentioned, it doesn't have to be black or white. I think look at the big picture, try to understand what the technology is all about. I get it, I get it. It's a little ridiculous as well when you think of, I bought a picture of, I don't know, an alien and I bought it for $100 and I sold it 3 months later for $500,000, $600,000. And, you have people who are still working for less than $1 a day, perhaps in certain countries. And, I totally understand that aspect to it. To me, it's really about the technology. Everything is polarizing, but if you understand the technology, if you look at the potential of the technology beyond just the hype, beyond our online bubbles that show you quick riches and flashiness, if you think about this is a technology that could bypass banks and for example, get you billions of people connected to financial services that they never had before. That is the potential that I look at. I don't really care about, pictures here or pictures there. To me, this is the main core element that I believe in for this technology, and everything that comes on top is a natural progression of how things flow. I just think it will bring in a lot of fairness, hopefully, lots of arguments there too, but it will bring in a lot of fairness, bring in a lot of transparency, a lot of inclusion to the whole world.
Yeah.
If we don't fuck it up early enough.
Yeah. Let's see how it goes. I agree discussions are great. Seeing like pros and cons, and also with NFTs or like Metaverse, there are definitely some cons that we need to talk about. One, for example, would be the ecological aspect of like the gas. I think this is also an interesting thing and something like people throw at me every time that I share something about NFTs. But think about the environment. Sure, this is definitely a very important topic and point. You need to think about it. So you actually need a lot of electricity, so a lot of gas when you like mint something on the blockchain. right? Because it's minted like on several. I mean, you can probably explain the much. I would probably let rather like you explain that. But it's it's not something that is really good for the environment because it causes so much like gas. You also pay for like gas fees when you mint something. So
yeah, but that depends on the blockchain itself. But absolutely, I mean, the solution is there. It's just a matter of time. So it depends on the blockchain that you're working on and the technology that they're using, right? So the Bitcoin is running on something called the Lightning Network, and it uses a technology called proof of work. And proof of work is the main culprit behind the energy consumption, right? So what proof of work does is that if I want to send you Bitcoin, as we said earlier, the network has to check this something called consensus, which means that I have to check that this transaction is viable. So Hany must have enough Bitcoin, and then it has a whole bunch of rules, and then somebody has to validate this on the network. And what proof of work does, this consensus mechanism, is that it makes a lot of computers do very advanced mathematics, which actually is what consumes all this energy until it picks one winner, the one who solves it the fastest. And that is the computer that is rewarded. And then, so proof of work as a technology is very energy consuming. Like when it comes to consumption, it's very high. And that is the main culprit. And Ethereum right now is still using that same consensus mechanism. But with Ethereum 2 coming hopefully later this year, sometime around Q2 or Q3, it's going to shift to something called proof of stake, which is what Solana has, which is what actually scratch that. Proof of stake is basically a much more energy effective method that doesn't require all this consumption. It looks at which of these computers that are connected, which of these nodes that are connected to my network own a lot of Solana or a lot of Ether and that are invested into the network. And so it's around 90 to 99% more energy efficient than it is today and cheaper. So even gas fees will go down, energy consumption will go down, and a matter of time. It's just a matter of converting to that. So that's why many people tell you, Solana is much better to do than Ethereum today for that environmental reason, because it's faster, because it can manage more transactions at once. But it's a matter of time. Like it's also a little bit of an oversimplification of just saying, it consumes a lot of energy. It's a new technology and it's going to get improved. And even, we can talk about this for days, I think, but it's not as simple as saying it's bad. Obviously, it's not efficient. It's very energy intensive. Using Bitcoin, for example, or using Ethereum right now. But with the right technology being used, that's a problem that you've solved.
Yeah. Honestly, that's so interesting, right? Because sometimes people have such blockers in their head that think like, no, this is bad, but they don't really think about like how fast the future actually is, how fast technologies can change. Like from 1 second to the other.
For sure.
And then it's working out pretty well, and it outperforms other things.
Do you think about how much energy, the Visa network uses or credit card network uses as well? Nobody talks about that. Just take how much does this one use? I totally get it. It's a valid concern, but looking slightly more and then you find an answer, right? It's never that. It's never that mysterious. So
I think 100%, and I feel I'm wondering like what all the big tech companies, like all the big Web2 companies are thinking right now.
Mm-hmm.
They are pretty scared, 100%. So they are really trying to get into the scene. They are building it like Facebook, right? Like renaming itself to Meta, really thinking of like the Metaverse and really getting into the scene as early as possible to not get left behind.
I'm not really sure who's going to use the Facebook's Metaverse, to be honest, though. Like to me, it goes against the whole culture that I'm not too excited about it somehow. But totally right. You're totally right. Everybody feels pressured right now. Like again, crypto has been around for a while, blockchain has been around for a while, but I think the speed at which NFTs sort of picked up this past year and like the noise that they made, and then the crypto bull market with it last year and everybody buying, it's crazy. I mean, you have banks buying, you have KPMG yesterday decided to buy, you have governments buying, you have El Salvador that's using Bitcoin as its legal tender right now. You have different states in the US that's probably going to be that are probably going to be using or trying to use Bitcoin as a legal tender. So things are moving at a very fast pace, and it's like a snowball effect. Early on, they you know, what is it, like they ignore you, then they laugh at you, whatever, that whole thing. But now we're at a phase where they see, okay, the momentum that is being built there is quite significant, and obviously things are not moving backwards; they're just moving forward. So we need to get on that broad as you know, on that train as soon as possible. So
yeah, 100%. This is what Facebook is thinking, even if they are not really aligned with the whole like concept of Web3 and decentralization, because they are like 100% into centralization with all their content. So it's pretty funny. But what I am wondering is actually, you know, the mainstream. I don't know if they really get the concept. So I'm wondering if they really care about the concept, or if they just go like the mainstream, you know, what they always do, if they just go with what they think is interesting and go with Facebook, although they have a bad reputation.
And that's what I mean. Like, I think, again, like, I'm in no position to judge what Facebook is doing, but just from the vibe of it, you feel like Facebook is going to be a place for like the mainstream to sort of jump and say, I'm doing something in Web3. You have many brands that are doing it right now. Many of them are just also doing it for the hype. Like, okay, we need to get in there. We need to do something fun. But then you look at Nike, for example, and I think Nike's doing a great job. Adidas too. So Nike, as you know, they purchased Artifact the day or the same night as Artifact dropped CloneX, one of the most successful, or like maybe definitely one of the top 10 NFT collections right now. And then CloneX partnered up with On Cyber, you know, Artifact, and they have the whole CyberPods, et cetera, et cetera. So, and now they just dropped the forgot what they call it, this cube with Nike. So Nike now owns Artifact, and what they're doing there is pretty interesting. Like, they're actually doing something new that people are looking at and trying to understand what's happening. Adidas partnered up with the Bored Ape Yacht Club, and now they're releasing something with Prada as well. And you have, you know, the NFL Super Bowl coming up some weekend. I don't follow football, but I know it's one of these upcoming weekends. And the halftime, they knew the halftime show is usually a very big event, and a lot is going to be centered around crypto and around NFTs. So it's just moving at a very fast pace, especially this year. So it's not, you know, we are very early. You know, we are very, very, very early. People might feel the pressure of, okay, we need to jump in. Yeah, definitely look at it, start exploring it, but it doesn't mean that you're late. We're still very early. We're a bubble at the end of the day, you know.
Yeah, and see what happens to the bubble. But I mean, we are always seeing the direction. It's not going back. Maybe it's going in like left to right, but the direction will be probably the same. I mean, we know that with the speed, everything happens. It's crazy. Like, if you would have told me that like 1 year ago, I would be like, no, right? But it's definitely pretty fast. And I think like Artifact is a really good example. Also like an interesting project to look at if you want to learn more about NFT, because like they did everything pretty great. So they built a community, then they released their avatars, which you can use as profile pictures. This is also a huge thing with NFTs, that you use them as your profile picture. That shows that you belong to that community. Pretty important. And you know, as part of owning that NFT, you are part of the community, and you get many cool things, right? You get sneakers, you get, for example, like the On Cyber spaces, which are crazy beautiful. You know, like 3D beautiful spaces where you can show your NFTs, where you can show your digital stuff, and design super nice. Like the space puts are really beautiful, and also like the new one is nice. So you just get that. You don't need to pay for it. It's you're part of the community.
It's creating value for you. Like, I mean, one of the projects that I'm in, I need to check something. I'm checking on my browser right now. So they airdropped something for us a few weeks ago that was completely free. I just have to pay for gas, and that thing is what is the component to? That thing right now is valued at around 0.7 or 0.8 ETH, which you paid nothing for. And 0.8 ETH is around, 1 ETH is now around 3,000 euros again. So 0.8 times that is around 2,400 euros that just showed up in my pocket without me having to do anything, which like I'm never gonna say no to. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
like there is a lot of value that is being generated, and a lot of this is about keeping people engaged, keeping the community engaged, showing you that there's value. But again, it goes way beyond the money. It goes way beyond the money. Like I joined one NFT project, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, sort of as a meme, like just for fun. It's called These Nuts, and like they're actually NFTs, they're PFPs designed after human testicles, and it was just for fun. And they said, okay, we want to do something to raise awareness for male cancer, for testicular cancer, and they regularly now donate. Every once in a while, they donate $50,000 to like male cancer organizations to help support for research and for people who need it. So there is a lot happening in that space, and it's also getting to a point where almost every project has to have a certain humanitarian or charity aspect to it,
Yeah,
which is also pretty nice. So
yeah.
like at least some of the money is not going to waste. But yeah, definitely
No,
something to
that's
watch
nice.
out for. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
such a nice thing, right? Because like charity is a huge thing there.
Hmm.
Like that's true.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering where this is coming from, if this is like coming from the whole like mindset shift, or just because there's a lot of money that uh, needs to go somewhere.
It's
But yeah,
it's that
that's
community mindset. Like for example, I have an NFT project that I'm working on with a bunch of really talented people, and it's art focused. So we're really into digital art as a thing on its own. And we saw that this is picking up. This is obviously the next frontier for digital art. So we're building frames. Like
yeah,
just like you buy a painting and you frame it. If you buy an NFT, an art painting, you want to frame that too in the metaverse. So we're doing that. And for us, it's also very important that we want to donate a good chunk of the money that we're making regularly is going to go to charities and to organizations that help bring art to under-resourced communities, like communities that do not have access to art or to art education. This is something that we
that's
are
awesome.
actively working on. Like it's a pledge that we've made, so we're never going back from that. But we are in talks with lots of organizations, and things go well. This also entices people to get more involved, to get more active in our space, in our community. So again, like you say, it's a community. Like this is part of what a community does. So yeah, we're super excited.
Cool. Are you already selling the frames?
No, not yet. We haven't minted yet. We haven't gone live with the drop. It's gonna be happening soon. Keep your eyes
Awesome.
on it. Well, we're very excited about it. Like we have a really solid team of people working on it. Like we're producing frames as generative art. The frames themselves are generative art. We have an algorithm that is being fed lots of visuals and lots of styles of frames. We are collaborating with. We launched a video today. I'll share the link with you later. It
Yeah,
hasn't
please.
gone. It is effectively live on the website if you want to check it, but we're not promoting it yet. So we are working, or we collaborated initially with a very old school frame maker in southern Germany, like a craftsman, somebody who's been doing this for 40, 50 years to understand everything about it. And one of the persons on our team is a PhD in art history. She is an art gallery owner. So we are really going at this in a very deep into the art world. Like we look at it as, yeah, maybe you don't want to put a frame around your monkey JPEG, but if you have a cadenza or if you have a very nice, beautiful piece of digital art, it only makes sense to frame it and hang it on your on cyber gallery, for example. So yeah, we're very excited about that. It's really fun.
Cool, nice, super interesting. I definitely need to check it out, and we'll share that later in my story so you can all have a look.
For
Sounds super
sure.
interesting. For all people who don't know what a fidenza is, like quick explanation. You definitely need to check out the website Art Blocks. It's pretty interesting because they are also doing NFTs, but in a really interesting way. Everything is generative art.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like a totally different approach. It's not something that creates it or draws it, but it's an algorithm who creates this kind of
Yeah,
art, and it looks very beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah,
I wish I could share images here, but that doesn't work. I could have shared some
yeah,
examples.
sadly.
But fidenzas are definitely like the most expensive pieces of digital art right now. I just have the website open in front of me. I have OpenSea open. And the cheapest one on the market right now is at 62 ETH. You can do the math. The most expensive one for sale, not just being owned, is, I mean, that's ridiculous. They have 888,000. That's ridiculous. But, you know, you have some that have sold for over 100, 200 ETH. So you're talking about millions of dollars. You're talking about an art market, you know? So, yeah, if you have a Fidenza, you need a frame for it. If you have a Picasso, you need a frame for it. Goes without saying. So that's what we're trying to do.
That's the thing, right? Like, if you got art piece, you need a frame for it.
Yeah.
That's part of it, and it's an adjustment, right? That
So we have, like, our research says that in the traditional art world, if you frame an art piece, I mean, you do it typically for the visual reason, for the aesthetic value. So obviously, if an art piece looks naked or isolated without a frame, if you give it a frame, it makes it look much nicer. But apparently, it also brings up its financial value by up to 25% for a physical art piece, which is very interesting, I find. Yeah.
Didn't know
and
that.
The older the frame, the more the more detailed the frame, the more of a craft piece it is. Of course, the more value it brings. We're not talking about the frame that you buy at IKEA just to hang it within a black frame, like I have behind me. This is one of my favorite art pieces.
Same here.
But the frame doesn't do it any justice, obviously. But you're talking about proper frames, wooden frames that have hours and hours and hours on top of hours of work put into them. So it just makes sense,
Exciting. Really cool. Need to share that later.
I will.
Yeah,
I will do that.
Super cool. I checked out your website.
For sure.
Of course, when you shared it on LinkedIn, and it looked really cool. So I think awesome. Very nice. Yeah. Also, Hany, I think we will be kicked out of the stream soon because we are talking for an hour, and I think, I know. Well, the time, I know.
Very fast.
Yeah, very fast.
We'll do a part 2.
Let's do a part 2. I'm totally up for it. I will be, and also I think, like, again, for everyone who maybe just joined, if you're interested in Web3 and NFTs, make sure to follow Hany, especially on Twitter and LinkedIn. He's sharing a lot of really cool things there, starting discussions. So really good to get into the scene. And you're also doing a lot of, like, a Twitter discussion rooms. I don't know how you call it, but
right. I would have asked them to follow you too, but they're already following you, so
please, also follow me. I hope so. I mean, I don't know, maybe they all unfollowed me now. Cause like, NFTs, go away.
Sure. No, buy NFTs and have fun. See, Kiara has a PFP NFT as her profile picture, so she's doing it right.
Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, I checked. I saw that 2 weeks ago, but I think they're always changing. So she has a huge collection. Nice. Okay, cool. Then Hany, let's do a session 2. I'm totally up for it.
Same here.
Things are changing so fast. So I feel like the next time we are doing a session, we have like so many more topics to talk about. Other topics and see how frame is going. Exciting.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for hosting.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining, for having you. It was awesome as always. And
thank you.
Have a lovely
evening. Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you everybody for joining us.
Bye. I hope you really enjoyed this interview as much as I did. If you want to see more or check out a few more interviews, you can find them on my Instagram account, or if you on YouTube as well. So I'm going to upload a few more of those interviews. So if you want to know more, you can check out the links. I shared a lot of links about Hany and a lot of the topics that we talked about in this interview in the description box, so you can just check it out. And don't forget to let me know what you think. Feel free to leave a comment there. Let me know what was interesting to you, what maybe you want to learn more about, or what was especially exciting for you. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.